Hello, good morning. I am Dr. Jetling Yellow, sir. You are well aware that I am running a channel in the YouTube called as the Law Speeches. First of all, I would request all of you to subscribe to my channel, watch my videos. If you feel my videos are knowledgeable, distributable, please share among your friends and communities. And today we are discussing another important matter which pertains to everybody, that is corruption. If you go to almost in all the public offices nowadays, public officials have been demanding the gratification in one form or the other. So that became a burning and also issue among the public as well as in political institutions are concerned. And today we are discussing what is meant by corruption and what is the reasons for corruption and the stand of the world against corruption and also the stand of Supreme Court, which is the apex court of the land, the landmark judgments we are discussing in this lecture. So, as I told you that corruption is pervading every sort of our life. If you go from lower level to the higher echelons, we could see the corrupt practices are being carried out by the public servants and government servants. So before embarking upon it, then we have to know the definition of the corruption. So corruption is a general definition. We can say it is an abuse of entrusted power for private gain. So it is nothing but abuse. A power is entrusted upon the certain individuals and they are basing upon that power, they are using that power for their own individual gains. That is a general definition. And we have some more definitions also been there, that is a corruption is classified as a dishonest, fraudulent conduct by those in power. So they are losing their honesty and they are committing their acts in a dishonest manner because they have the power. For work done, they are doing this kind of activities. That is called as a corruption. You know, we have different kinds of corruptions are there. Basically, we can find out two kinds of corruptions. One is the corruption unleashed by government servants and the corruption unleashed by the other persons. But corruption unleashed by the government servants are more dangerous than the other sort of the corruption. Then we can go for one more important definition provided by the Professor Stephen D. Morris, a professor of politics. He stated that a corruption is nothing but it is a illegitimate use of public power to benefit a private interest. So, if we dissect this definition, the public power is utilized for, illegally utilized for the private purpose. That is the in words of the Professor Stephen D. Morris. Another world famous economist and the World Bank expert, Danial Kaufmann, he states that corruption is a legal corruption in which power is abused within the confines of the law. So a corrupt person using his power, a legal power, is abusing the law. We can say this is a very much appropriate definition provided by the Kaufmann, the leading economist in the world. Then we go for the forms of corruption is concerned. Basically, there are two forms which could be visible. One is a corruption for petty matters, other for the corruption for the grand corruption. As you know, the matters of petty corruption, if you go to any public office, the officials working there, they demand some gratification for small things to be done. That is we could see the general public could come across these kind of practices in day-to-day affairs. Whereas the grand scale corruption is a corruption which involves the higher echelons of this government or society. Though the public is not involved in it, but they are committing this kind of corrupt practices by way of higher contracts, by way of higher agreements, by way of importing the defense equipment from the other countries, like the Prof scandal is an example in India. Hauser deal is an example for India. So you could not, and the public is in no way concerned there, but there could be the crores of money is involved. A squandering of money is involved. So that is be called as a grand corruption. Then what are the reasons for the main causes for the corruption is, if we analyze, number one is a greed for money or desires. Because of modernization, technological innovation, the man became very greedy, techno-savvy, and that led to acquiring of money. Earlier, that kind of thing is not there. So we can say that the advancement of science and technology also resulted into increase of corrupt practices in one way or the other. The second cause is the higher level of market and political monoism. So now everything is, our economy is forced to market forces, and politicians, they are deciding the things for the nation. So there may be cropping of corruption in this aspect is concerned. Then the low level of democracy, the third reason. Where there is a democracy, lesser level of democracy is there. If you go to the Africa, where majority of countries, they have the low level of democracy, and much under the military junta governments. Because of this, the corrupt practices have been very much prevalent in Africa. If you take the Transparency International corruption practices index is concerned, much of the nations are, their dubious distinction of African nations have dubious distinction to be corrupt countries because of the low level of democracy. Then the fourth reason is a high level of bureaucracy. If the bureaucracy involvement is there in everywhere, that led to corrupt practices. You know, at the earlier stage of bureaucrats, they are sincere. They want to provide some service to society. They want to render services. But when they understand the system, by their top echelons, their bosses have indulging into corrupt practices, they also forced to indulge such corrupt practices. Then there is a fifth reason is the low price freedoms. The freedoms are low with respect to speech and expression, with respect to social media. When there is a lesser freedoms are there, definitely they may lead to the darker side of the societies, darker sides in the societies that led to these kind of practices. Then there is the other reason for the corruption is that gender inequalities. So gender inequalities is not a issue in between developing countries. Everywhere, even developed countries also, we could see the gender inequalities. The male and females, they are discriminated in every aspect. So that also led to one of the reasons for the corrupt practices being prevalent in the societies. Then there is another reason is that poverty. So poverty is one of the, we can say, is a major cause for this sort of corrupt system to be prevail in the societies. Then we can say one more aspect for this is that there is a political instabilities. So frequent change of governments, and the governments are not having the stability. Then horse trading, we could say, purchasing of MLAs, purchasing of MPs in the and there is a change of governments, frequent change of governments. There, the corruption, because when they got elected by corrupt means, then they will indulge into this kind of practices forever. So that is another reason, a cause we could say. Then there is another reason is that the most important reason we could say, that is the lack of commitment to the society. Day by day, just I told you, because of the number of market forces have entered into our societies, then there is a change of human tendencies. So that also be a reason for we losing our commitment towards the society. When you lose your commitment towards society, that led to increase of this sort of practices. Then there is another reason we could say classify, that is the lack of policies. They should have their permanent policies, because change of governments lead to the change of policies. That may not good for the societies or to the countries. So we should have the firm policies. If the firm policies are there, maybe change of governments may come and go, whatever governments may come, they have to stick to some policies. They may lead to lessening of the corruption. Then there is a last reason we can say, that is unemployment. So unemployment is another major reason for corruption which is prevails upon in our countries. Everywhere, if you go to Africa, to India, if India to UK, Canada, you can anywhere in the world, we could see the single digit or double digit unemployment rate. And because of that, instead of corruption, but also exploitation also been happening in these societies. So these are the reasons. Then we causes for the corruption to be prevalent in the societies. Then mostly we could see the corruption may be in public sectors, but even in private sectors, in judicial sectors, in military sectors, in religious sectors. So all sectors have been, one way or the other, they are affected by corrupt practices or corruption. We could not say that this sector is free from the corruption. So every sector is come under the influence of the corruption and corrupt practices. So that is another thing we have to remember, to note down. Then to access the corruption indexes, we have in international level, we have the Transparency International, a non-governmental organization playing a very major role, and they are, for time to time, they are publishing the data regarding the rate of corruption prevails in the countries. It is taking a data of more than 180 countries, and it is ranking, and it is taking the surveying by number of surveys, and also taking data from the different sources, different organizations. It is finally preparing the corrupt and corruptless countries. If we go for the corruptless countries are concerned, basically all the Scandinavian countries like Norway, Denmark, Sweden, Finland, they are free from any sort of corruption we could see in those countries. Even in New Zealand, in Pacific, we could see this. As on today also, since we observed the data since 10 or 15 years, the same thing is there. As on today, these countries are immune from corruption. But the highly corrupted countries are concerned, those include, most of them are African countries. Their corruption is prevalent in every walk of life. Like, and if you take the data of some 10 or 15 years also, they say those countries are still the most corrupt list. There is no change in that, like the Syria, Somalia, Sudan, Venezuela. So almost all are developing countries which are be considered as corrupt countries in the world. The index of corruption is a very, very much wider in these countries. And we can get it out. In the other Western countries, we could not find the corruption. Yes, we could be. In the United States of America also, some sort of corruption is there. In advanced countries like France, Germany also some sort of corruption is there. But that is only a minimal corruption we could say. Then, in India, data is concerned, India also, in 2005 data, even recent data also says that around 70% of people, they went to public offices, they have to indulge into corrupt practices for what can be done. So India is ranked as a 84th corrupt country in the world. Now it is earlier in 2005. Now it is standing around above 60s. Then how to combat the corruption? The question comes to our mind. You know, the corruption may lead to destroyment of societies. Ultimately, it may lead to destroyment of the nation. So for that reasons, the governments around the world have taken measures to combat the corruption. But those are not successful. In India, if we concentrate upon India, there we have enacted number of enactments like the Anti-Corruption, Prevention of Corruption Act of 1988. Very exhaustive enactment is made. to combat the corruption. But one form of the other corruption is not eliminated from our horizon. And many non-governmental organizations, persons like Hanna Hazare, Arvind Kejriwal, and so forth, the people have brought a movement in India, anti-corruption movement in India in 2012 and 13. But still, people are awakened, but still there is not much changes we could see with regard to corruption is concerned. In addition to these movements, public spirited persons also filing number of public interest litigations in the Supreme Court of India. So judiciary also playing a role, key role in curbing the corruption. And we could say that judiciary is not above the corrupt. Even Justice, the then Justice R.S.Nayak, he remarked openly in a seminar that corruption, 30% of judges in judiciary were corrupt. So this is an open remark made by the Chief Justice of India at that time. But in spite of that, the Supreme Court time and again has upholding the rights of individuals, rights of citizens, and in other way, indirect way, it is fighting for, it is taking steps for anti-corruption. For that reason, number of public spirited persons have filed the cases, and Supreme Court has given, time to time has given very, very landmark or remarkable judgments, and those judgments, because of those judgments, many scandals have come out. In our country, from the cycle scandal of 1950s, bicycle scandal, Bofa scandal, house deal scandal, Saint Kitts scandal, like that Hawala scandal, photo scam scandal, stamp scam scandal, like that many scandals have come out because of the active intervention of the Supreme Courts and also the various high courts. And now we see some of the landmark judgments of the Supreme Court and its opinion regarding the corruption. In a case called A.R.Antuly versus R.S.Nayak, reported in All India Reporter 2000 SC, page number 870, the Supreme Court has stated that Prevention of Corruption Act of 1988 is a landmark judgment framed by the Parliament, and under this act, any public spirited person can file a petition. If we see that there is a happening, there is a seed of occurrence of corruption or corrupt practices, then any public spirited person can invoke this Prevention of Corruption Act of 1988 against the public servants or against the government servants. And the court has observed in this case that corruption in a civilized state is like cancer. If it does not detected in time, it's sure to marginalize the polity of the country, leading to disastrous consequences. It is learned as a plague which is not only contagious, if it is not controlled, spreads like a wildfire in a jungle. Its virus is compared with the HIV, leading to AIDS. Being incurable, it has been termed as a royal thievery. This socio-political system exposed to such a dreaded communicable disease likely to crumble under its own weight. Corruption is a opposite to democracy and social order, being a not only anti-people but also aimed and targeted at them. It affects economy and destroys the cultural heritage unless it repealed in this and earliest. It is likely to cause turbulence, shaking of the socio-economic political system in an otherwise healthy, wealthy, effective and vibrating society. So this is a stand. These are the golden words uttered by the Supreme Court in this case. So it is Supreme Court remarked that it is evil upon the society. It is a virus in the society. It has to be, it eradicate the nation. So it is our duty to remove this kind of corruption, corrupt practices from our land. Then in one more case, V.Unioin versus Union of India, All India Reporter, 1998 SC, page number 880. So in this case, Supreme Court has stated that Central Bureau of Investigation, which is a highest investigating agency in the central government, it should not be work under the central government dictates. So it should be maintain its independency in its work and investigate the matters with lot of integrity. So this is the thing which is stated by Supreme Court in this case. And in one more case, like the case is called the Satyanarayan Sharma versus State of Rajasthan, All India Reporter 2001 SC 2856 page number. In this case, Supreme Court has stated, I held that no court, including the high courts, should stop the corruption cases or proceedings under any circumstances. So it is a guided the courts not to stop or not to issue any kind of orders which lead to the stoppage of proceedings. And in one more, another landmark judgment rendered by the Supreme Court, that is in case of the Dr. Subramania Swamy versus Dr. Manmohan Singh and another, the civil appeal number 11 of 2012, 1195 of 2012. So corruption, the Supreme Court held that corruption became a danger to the society and which ultimately will destroy the democracy and devalues the human rights, undermines the Constitution of India, enshrining the basic tenets to individuals. All those things will be undermined if you see that, if you be liberal towards the corruption. So that is the very, very remarkable judgment rendered by the Supreme Court in this case. And time again, as I told you, that much of the scandals have been unearthed by the courts, high courts and the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court of India, also the high courts, have been acting as a bulldozer against the corruption in our country is concerned. because of its effective judgments, because of effective steps, some sort of corruption is under control in our country. And the courts are very, very active regarding these issues. And the public spirited persons also regularly filing the petitions against the governments and stopping the perpetuation of corruption in our country is concerned. Then ultimately I conclude stating that the ending of corruption is not an easy task. It requires a collective action of all the public, and public should pledge. They should be pledged to eradicate the corruption from our societies, and we should also reframe our electoral system, electoral laws. We have to make electoral reforms, and so that the criminals should be excluded from the political systems, and the citizens, good citizens, should be encouraged to enter into the political system. Then only we could end the corrupt practices of corruption. And it is another suggestion I want to make, that we have to strengthen the anti-corruption enactments, and there should be a comprehensive enactment should be made, and also the judges should be trained in those such enactments, and for speedy justice is required, and also a constitutional mandate. We should create the special courts for disposal of cases, and also there should be awakening of the public, of their rights, of their duties. Then only the corruption can be controlled, can be curtailed from our societies. So with this, I am concluding my lecture on corruption, and thank you for patiently hearing my lecture. Please, if you feel that my lecture is good, please make comments and share my lectures. Thank you, one and all.